Welcome to Experimarketing, the podcast where we innovate, create, and appreciate. Powered by Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson. Here's the host of Experimarketing, Chief Experimarketer, Colin Carasquillo.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, advertisers and marketers of all ages. Welcome to another episode of Experimarketing episode 12. This one is called CX to Success. CX meaning customer experience, which we know is going to be the next battleground in the automotive space. And on this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about customer experience and how your dealership can take its customer experience to the next level. Without further ado, let me introduce my co-host, Mr. Matt Wilson. Drum roll, please. There he is.
Hello, Colin.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
I'm good, man. Your music gets me all jacked up. So
that's funny. The wheels were turning in here, and I said to myself, that always still gets me. I mean, that intro, by the way, which yes, put please on the screen, Jim McCarthy Voiceovers, jimmccarthyvoiceovers.com, did that incredible Experimarketing intro that makes you want to run through a wall.
Yeah, so get you all fired up.
Get you all fired up. If any of you dealers, advertisers, marketers out there need some audio for your automotive needs, please reach out to Jim McCarthy. So as I mentioned today, Matt, we're talking about customer experience. Now, when I ask you about customer experience, because this is interesting, you're on the agency side, I'm on the dealer side, but you go through life, you go get coffee at places, you order takeout, you do all these things. What do you think of when you say customer experience? What comes to mind?
I think two things: ease of use, and being treated right, like having a good experience, clean, nice, friendly, right? Are those the things you think of?
So, I think that's one of the things that we're going to unpack today. And what dealers think, and we have an expert on what dealers think, is that that's all it's about. It's about treating the customer nice. It's about customer satisfaction.
Being friendly, right?
Being friendly, right? But there's so much more that, in fact, goes into the customer experience. So to talk about it, we're going to bring on Dennis Ephlin, and I am going to read his title here because it's a long one, ladies and gentlemen. So Dennis Ephlin, Global Leader Auto, COE, Customer Engagement and Digital Transformation at IBM. There he is. Dennis, how are you?
I'm doing great, Colin. Thanks. Appreciate the title read.
Absolutely. I was going to say, if we could give you an award even before the beginning of the episode, it'd probably be for longest title, but that's okay. Obviously, with long titles comes a lot of responsibility.
Exactly.
And we're very excited to dig into what we have here today, which is actually an article that you wrote for Dealer Marketing Magazine. You are an expert on the Dealer Marketing Magazine portal, which you can go find at dealermarketing.com. It's a really great outlet for dealers, advertisers. You have access to people like Dennis, as well as other experts in the automotive space. But Dennis provided us with an awesome article on dealer marketing about customer experience needs to be your dealership's differentiator. But before I get too far ahead of myself, please tell us about yourself, and then we will dig in or jump into the article that you wrote.
Well, so shorter title, I am a partner within our auto industry practice, and really an advocate and evangelist for CX. IBM has hundreds of pieces of software and technology and solutions, but none of them really matter unless we design them for a customer experience. So my job is often to act as the tip of the spear. I like to say I try to think different, see different, and help us create the art of the possible. How can we treat customers better? How can we orchestrate for businesses so they can treat customers better and fulfill an experience? So that is what I do, which is almost as long as my title.
Hey, listen, I think you fit right in then at Experimarketing, because I mean, you basically said a lot of things that I like, which is one, thinking outside the box. And in our email exchanges back and forth setting this up, you said you don't even know what the box is. And I love that though, because it means that you are the perfect person, not only for this show to have on the episode, but of course, a great asset to IBM and being that spear and getting dealers to ensure that they are in fact aware of their customer experience and then enhancing it or providing an excellent customer experience. So now, let us jump into this article. And we don't necessarily have to dissect this now. I just want to mention a quote that you had written in here by Tom Knighton. And basically, I thought it was so profound that I just wanted to mention it. And then I think what we'll do is kind of circle back after we unpack a couple of things in the article. But the quote, customer experience is the next competitive battleground. So everyone out there, just keep that, store it away in the back of your head and think to yourself, well, why is it that customer experience is the next competitive battleground? And as we go through this episode, as we unpack everything in this article here, I think we're going to start seeing why that's the case. So with that, Dennis, as the expert, we already heard from Matt. Matt says, hey, it's about keeping customers happy. It's about being friendly, I think that's the pitfall that a lot of dealers fall into, which is actually just misunderstanding or misusing customer experience. So for everyone out there, what is customer experience, or as we call it, CX?
So I guess in simplest terms, I would define it as the customer's emotional attachment to an experience. Matt mentioned a few aspects or attributes, how easy was it? How seamless was it? How delightful was it? How frictionless was it? But at the end of the day, it's also got to be personalized and meet the customer's needs. One of the things in the article, and I often stress, is, it is not customer experience as a business practice that we need to worry about. It's the customer's, apostrophe S, single customer's experience. And each one is different in where they're at, in their need, their expectation. So how do we meet that sort of part of their journey? Is customer experience.
Right. No, and I think that that's a great definition of it. I mean, in its essence, in its core, each person's experience is going to be unique. So as dealers, what we need to do as advertisers, as marketers, one, from that perspective, you're looking at hyper-personalization of marketing messages. Is it as relevant to the person as it can be? Are they being served on the right device at the right time? So on and so forth. But also from the dealer's perspective, having a holistic picture or looking at it from this larger level, saying that, oh my goodness, customer experience really is the lifeblood of what is going to keep my dealership in business or moving forward, especially as we move forward in 2021 and beyond, right? The next competitive battleground is customer experience. So how has customer experience been misused or misrepresented in the past, though? What have dealers kind of fallen into these the pitfall, right?
Well, I think, and not just dealers, I think a lot of businesses and industries are at fault for this of, when you say, do you handle customer experience? How do you handle customer experience? The sort of response right away is, well, I have a CRM system,
right?
Or I score high on my CSI. I'm all about customer service. Customer experience to me is not customer service. Customer service is table stakes now. Do I meet the basic requirements of a transaction? If you look at a JD Power or Mystery Shopper CSI survey, it's pretty basic for what they're accomplishing.
Right.
Customer experience is, did you really fulfill the need? And there's some of what you said. Did you meet me across every channel? Did I have to repeat information? Did you know me personally? Did you know what I really need in terms of my mobility or automotive need, as opposed to you selling me a car? Now, those two things meet head on. The dealer trying to put a one up on the board of the sales board, and the customer saying, well, here's what I need. And those things are often at odds.
So you had mentioned, and I had brought it up too, as a marketer here at a dealership group, right? The personalization and individualization that goes into customer experience, essentially the idea that each person is going to be a unique interaction at the dealership. And as such, the dealer needs to provide that unique interaction, meet the customer where they are, making sure that work isn't done twice, making it as frictionless as possible, right? And what I like to say, from click to brick, right? So what happens online to what occurs at the physical brick and mortar dealership. But why is that so important, Dennis? I mean, someone who literally, this is your job. Obviously, we can see your passion. I can feel it emanating through the screen here. But, why is that so important in terms of personalization and individualization?
Well, again, I think in terms of long-term sustainability, it is the model for especially automotive retail right now. Where will the future be? And I just wrote about this in my last article for Dealer Marketing Magazine. Where will the future be in terms of electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles, retailers being more experience centers or charging stations? We don't know all the answers, but what's the one constant that will make them sustainable is the customer.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't deliver that experience, they won't be there. And that experience, again, doesn't just mean a new car sale, but what does it mean for following me on my journey, for, helping me with used car trade-in value, or helping me along the way with servicing and parts and accessories, and being more, as you said, meeting me where I am in an on-demand world. I'm busy, I'm mobile, I have needs. You meet me where I need to be met. And so that experience, I think, will keep dealers, keep customer lifetime value, keep sustainability for a dealership, no matter what the actual product ends up being 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now.
Right. And I think one of the things that you had actually touched on, right, like servicing a vehicle. So I think for dealers out there, what we want to stress too is it's not just about sales, right? It's not just about, hey, making sure that you're providing the potential sales customer with this incredible customer experience. That's why they're going to choose your dealership, right, to ultimately transact with. But what happens after that transaction? You obviously need to promote retention of the customers, and you want to build that customer loyalty. And obviously how you do that is still providing this excellent customer experience from the sales portion of it, but to the service and fixed ops sides, because then what people do is they get trapped in what dealers love, which is that lovely infinity loop where they go from sales to service to parts to sales to service to parts. But obviously a lot of it comes down to personalization, individualization of what happens in that customer's journey through the customer experience. So, I mean, I love it. I think this is really, it's the next frontier, if you will, or it's definitely the next competitive battleground. I'll just touch on that quote one more time before we really finally unpack it. But so as an industry as a whole, and you had even said, this isn't just automotive dealers that really need to focus on this. And that's the truth. Amen to that. But the industry, what do we face, right, as dealers? And, like I said, representing a dealer, I'll go out there and I'll say, hey, sometimes dealers are a little reluctant to make a lot of changes, right? They get accustomed to doing things a certain way because it's worked for so long. And we are a resilient folk, and we've been through a lot of things, and we've always come out stronger. But I think really now it's a call to adapt, and it's a call to understand that the customer experience is one of those things that dealers really do need to start focusing on and putting a lot of effort behind. But before that, what are some of the downfalls? What are the issues that we as dealers face? What are the issues that customers are facing with dealers?
So, I mean, we've kind of mentioned or implied some of them. I mean, the friction that exists in different processes that become cumbersome. You mentioned sales to service to parts to back to sales. That for me is one customer journey. That shouldn't be 5 different types of experiences and 17 different transactions. That friction, is not meeting me as a personalized, humanized customer in my journey. The service department and sales department shouldn't feel like 2 different worlds to me. It should be one journey. So, there are ways we accomplish that, certainly, but that friction is one thing. The second thing I'd say, and you said the word omni-channel of, I'm a guy who carries a couple devices at all time. We're on the go, whether it's in the car, on my phone, laptop, second phone. The ability to keep one constant communication and have that be seamless, have that be integrated, and on the dealer side as well. So I don't have to talk to, the operator and get transferred around and eventually hit a voicemail, or I try to hit an email, or they call back and get my voicemail. what's my preferred channel of communication? How's that match up with the dealer, and how do we keep that relationship and connection going?
So, no, go ahead. I was going to say, Dennis, you do have in here, obviously, a lot of things that I think would resonate with dealers in terms of some of the pain points. So I'm just going to go through some of those because I think this is true. And dealers, if they're listening, would end up saying, oh, I could check that box. Like, whoops, I do that too. And it's kind of like, oh, I shouldn't, but I do. But basically here, so the sales representative made the experience a challenging and unhappy one for the customer. Listen, I think that impacts a lot of other things aside from just the customer's own experience with the dealership, but then talk about negative reviews online, how that can be impactful for the dealer, not only for people that are looking to do business, right, future customers, but we're even seeing the implication that reviews have in terms of, Google campaigns with SEM, dinging you on your SEM campaigns, dinging you on Google My Business, which are some things that are really, really critical for a dealer's success. And we know that at this point in time, getting the runaround on the phone. I think you had talked about that. Someone calls up, they're looking for some information. They either say, or someone at the dealership says, hold on, I'll transfer you over to that individual. Then it gets bounced over to that individual. They don't pick up. It gets bounced back to the same person you talked to. Then it bounces back to them. So either that, or they want information about pricing or whatever it is. And someone says, well, I can't give you that over the phone. I need you to come in. And that's the only way you'll get pricing. That's got to stop. Lack of visibility, transparency, and trust, which can also tie into not giving or surrendering information that a person wants. And then basically not concerned about the customer's needs. I think in the long run, what all of those items that you had mentioned and what we had just gone through shows that you really don't, excuse my language, give a shit, beep, about the customer's wants or needs, because you are refusing to work with them in the matter that would enhance their customer experience. So what I like to do, Dennis, and you did it in here, is obviously teach people. But in order to teach, you need to put it into terms or perspectives or examples that they understand. So in here, I really love this. You did a great example, and it was something simple: pizza, Domino's. So talk to us about the Domino's example here, because I think this to me is like I'm going to equate it to something else, but it's something that I've heard at one point in time, which is like the mom test on your website. If your website can't be navigated by your mom or your grandma, well, then you probably need to make something on your website easier to do. But the Domino's pizza example is actually very, very, it's impactful because it makes people understand in the simplest terms. So tell us about the Domino's pizza example.
So appreciate that. And this is one that often frustrates people because they think this can't be right for a pizza. But yeah, so for a $5 pizza, I can call up, I can go online, I can use an app. And some of the pizza places even had fancier ways to, get an app and attached to your pair of shoes or something. But in any case, there are multi-channels which I can go in and order a pizza. If I'm a repeat customer, I have simple quick question choices or drop-down menus to say, is this a repeat order, same as last time? You want to make a quick one change to it? You're a new person, enter your phone number or email. We recognize you. Mm-hmm. Is this delivery or pickup? There's 3 simple questions and I have an order. And the order's in, and guess what? I get a text back saying the order's in, and I get visibility into then how much time it is before perhaps it's delivered. I get a notification when it's getting ready to go to the oven and say, hey, it's getting ready. Any last minute changes? You want to add something to it, some Parmesan to your crust. Keep fast forwarding through the process. I find out the driver's on its way, and then he'll text me when he's basically on my street. The pizza arrives hot because it's been, packed up correctly and nice. And sometimes now, even in some markets, through an autonomous vehicle, it arrives. But then it'll arrive, and I get immediately a satisfaction of how was it? Is it hot? Is it right? Can we do anything to fix the order if it was wrong? Here's some coupons or loyalty points for your next purchase. Tell a friend, you'll earn some more, whatever. A complete full 360 process in about 25 minutes for $5. Now compare that to what you just described of calling the operator at a dealership and getting bounced around. So yes, there's a gap in our expectations.
Yeah, I think that's a really great example. And I think just from listening to that, even myself, I'm saying, oh, yeah, well, we could absolutely do that better. We can, that's a great idea. We should look at just making this as simple as possible and ensuring that a person can access our inventory from all different outlets, right, on whatever device they're on, that they can select to build out their payments or vehicle deal should they like. If not, hey, they can contact us X, Y, and Z. But I think that in and of itself really does show that there's so many more ways or opportunities to make the process more efficient. Now at IBM, you guys have a saying, and the quote is in here as well, that the last best experience you have in any industry, for that matter, becomes your standard going forward across all industries.
Right.
So unpack that a little bit. I mean, obviously, just with the pizza example,
Right.
I'm over here wishing that when I'm in the market for a car, it's as easy as ordering a pizza. So obviously, that's kind of what you're alluding to. But please unpack that a little bit.
No, you're right. I mean, the pizza example is exactly it. That, no longer do I have expectations that are different for each industry or each type of business, because the world is so omnipresent. Digital is so omnipresent. We share reviews, as you said. So, call it the Amazon effect if you want. But any industry I do something now and I have a level of experience that is raised, that becomes my expectation across every industry. So, Amazon anticipates, oh, you bought something, there's a complimentary type of product that would go with it, and we'll give you free shipping. How does that sound? Well, that's an expectation that I carry forward. I think it was accelerated and highlighted as well with the pandemic, where industries we didn't think could be as easy to use and convenient, as Matt said, all of a sudden had to adapt and became more convenient. So, my groceries were delivered to me, my prescriptions were delivered to me. Some dealers or some service, car service, third-party outlets would come pick up your car and do the servicing. So our expectations have continued to rise, and that now falls on every industry, but also especially dealerships. And some research we did, unfortunately, says millennials would rather go to a dentist than to a dealership. So we've got to break some bad perception and image, but we have to deliver on experiences one at a time to start chipping away at that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, you had mentioned before too with the Amazon effect, right? And so one of the ways that Matt and I actually met was because I had written an article literally from click to brick, talking about kind of what I alluded to, where how do you make the experience from online to offline as frictionless as possible? And that some of the tools that have actually been put in place can, in some instances, create more friction, because then there's a disconnect in communication between, let's say, a BDC and a salesperson. That's not the point. The point is, though, the Amazon effect. And
Right.
What I've learned, in my time on the industry or on the dealership side of things, because prior to that I was on the agency side, was that you cannot deny customers the opportunity to do business the way they want to do business just because you refuse to adapt to the times, right? Customers' behavior is changing. If you don't change, that's you. That's on you. That's your problem at the dealership, right? Because customers' behaviors are changing. But it just goes back to the IBM saying as well, that because people are shopping on Amazon, right, and they're having things delivered to their house the next day utilizing Prime, or they can find things so easily. We need to realize as dealers, and this is like a wake-up call out there to dealers, that you need to realize that you need to make your experience or work on getting your experience as close to that as possible, because now that is the new expectation. It's the bar has been raised. How do we rise to the occasion? I'm confident as someone who represents dealers that we can do it. We just need to really dig in and we need to focus on it. And, hopefully this podcast here and talking to you and everything that you guys do is a wake-up call for dealers. So, ultimately, let's give people some tips, right? So the last part of your article, which I love because this kind of goes through, it's a very nice layout for a podcast where you then say, here's the problem, I'm identifying it, here's the opportunity for improvement, and now here are your actual solutions. So you have 5 steps, action items. Dealers, take action. Why don't you talk about those 5 steps here?
Yeah. So again, I don't like to raise issues or problems without saying, here's how we can at least start to attack them. So your point's valid. And from a dealer perspective, now realize this is an industry issue and the OEM's got a major part of helping fix a lot of this. But from a dealer perspective, what are we doing to sort of unify our data at its core so we can get one single view of the customer?
Mm-hmm.
How do we view Dennis, the sales customer, and Dennis, the service customer, as just Dennis? How do we have Dennis who phones in and Dennis who comes online as just Dennis? So the more a retailer can do to integrate the channels, integrate the data, think of the customer as one, the single customer as one, the more advantage and the more ability you'll have to deliver an experience. So, one view of the customer is kind of, table stakes and step one. The focus on the need and not sale, the second point. As much as I understand completely, the world goes around by moving iron. Nothing happens until we sell the inventory. As much as that transaction mentality exists, we still need to focus on the customer need so that that specific sale perhaps is more profitable because people are willing to pay for a better experience. Data and research would tell you that. And they're willing to come back over and over for the right experience. So meeting that need personally, humanized, as we said, as opposed to just thinking of it as a transaction, is a culture shift, is a metric shift. Let's not just focus on the whiteboard with putting stick numbers up if we sold one, but what are we really doing around customer experience?
Mm-hmm.
The third part quickly is channel consistency. That we talked omni-channel of meeting the customer and talking to the customer through the channel they want, through any channel, and having a consistent message and path and journey along those channels. If a customer has to repeat something, there's a problem, there's friction. So how do we keep that consistency across channels and across the information? Fourth is personalization. Again, know me, inspire me, know what I need. I may be buying the same exact car as you, Colin, but our needs for that car may be very different. Understand those, and that will help the sale, the profit, and the sustainability. And the last one, this is not just about CX, it's about business, is, create a wow factor. What separates your dealership? What makes you relevant and differentiating versus the dealer 20 miles away, 10 miles away down the street? What makes you different from me not going to your dealership? What is the wow factor? I'd call it that North Star that you're pointing towards in a customer experience. So sales, service, parts, every employee says, this is our North Star experience that we deliver as a wow. And it could be, basics of easy to do business and we treat customers right. But what else is it that's really going to separate you? What's the wow? And that I will go tell people about online, at parties, and socially. What is the wow? So create that wow.
I think that's ultimately a great question that dealers should start looking into, is what is the wow factor as to why someone should do business at their specific dealership. Now, I promised I would come full circle, and I'm a man of my word. So now we go back to the Tom Knighton quote of customer experience is the next competitive battleground. I think after unpacking all of those things and even just touching on the last two items of personalization and customization in your 5 steps, which people can go get on dealermarketing.com. They can check out Dennis's article. I mean, Matt, let me ask you, because you've been silent, but you know what they say, the silent ones are the dangerous ones because the wheels are always turning. So you've been silent, Matt. So now hearing all of that great information from Dennis, thank you, Dennis, for sharing that with us. Matt, why is customer experience the next competitive battleground?
I'm just listening to what Dennis is talking about, and he mentioned focusing on the need, not the sale.
Yeah.
It makes me think of something that Jim McCarthy said to me once, Jim McCarthy, voiceovers.com, who did your intro. He created this hashtag called Be Them Centric. Hashtag Be Them Centric, which is, it's not about you. It's not about, we want to sell this car at this price. We want this customer to come back every 3 years. It's not about, we want them to service with us because we get, credit for retention if they come back once in 6 months. It's about what they want. Right. And if our needs don't match up with the customer's wants, then we need to adjust our needs because they want to shop on their terms. It's about them. be them centric. It hasn't caught on yet because it's a very long hashtag. but the sentiment is true, right? I mean, you want to do it the way people want to shop the way they want to shop, and you need to let them shop that way.
Right.
Did it answer your question, or is that just something I was thinking of saying?
I think that's good. I think ultimately, my take on why it's the next competitive battleground is because when everyone's selling the same vehicle, when you're comparing apples to apples, all right? So we have 3 Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram dealerships. I always use them in examples. It's great if someone goes and buys from one of our 3 stores. That's a win for me as the marketing manager.
Right.
Our general sales managers at each store, though, although playfully, hate each other because they say, darn you got one of the Jeep Grand Cherokee sales that I could have had at my store. Well, ultimately, why did that person pick that dealership? Now, sure, there are other factors, but when you look at it, apples to apples, all the marketing's the same. Right. I make sure all my little dealership children, there's no, redheaded stepchild. Sorry if there's any redheaded stepchildren listening out there. It's not a shot at you, but that's what they call them, the redheaded stepchildren. There's none of those in the way that I operate because each dealership, works uniformly, really. But what sets them apart is the staff and the process and what those people do for the customers. And that's why it is the next competitive battleground, because it's up to those dealerships utilizing the marketing tools that we provide to create the wow experiences and the wow factors. Can you create wow factors on there for me, Matt, real quick? Because that's how I'm gonna end it. Hurry, Matt, hurry.
Wow.
Create wow factors. All right. So with that stated, Dennis, we'll let you go. Thank you so very much for being on today. You're a wealth of information. I had a really great time. I hope you did as well. We want to leave you, with just this. Create wow factors. I'm hovering my hand over it so people can go check that out. The other thing I just want to mention, Dennis, before we do let you go, you guys just helped Audi UK. And is there a place, I pulled this off of LinkedIn, I'm very active on there, but is there a place that people can go? Is it on IBM.com that they can see this in action, what we're talking about?
So either IBM.com or you could literally actually Google Audi UK and IBM.
Okay. That's great.
Yep.
So yes, I want everyone to see this. This was an awesome, I'm going to call it overhaul that IBM iX, the program, did with Audi UK to reimagine the digital customer experience. And basically everything we talked about in here is reflected in this article, and you just need to see the results for yourself. And then you need to take these and you need to implement this at your dealership. So with that, Dennis Ephlin, we're now going to shorten it, partner, automotive practice at IBM. Thank you so very much for being on, Dennis. I'm sure we'll have you on again, obviously, as a partner with dealer marketing, as an expert on the panel. We would love to have you back. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Take care.
Dennis's title is so long that the font on the video program we use had to shrink the size to fit it.
That's
in the captions.
Well, you know what I said? It's long titles usually have a lot of responsibilities, but then they also have such great thoughts, right? Unbelievable. So with that, I want to tell people, once again, put on dealermarketing.com for me real quick. Dealermarketing.com. You can check out all of the experts on the expert panel. Matt and I have our podcasts on there, but dealermarketing.com, the place for all of your automotive information. You get to read Dennis's articles. It sounds like he had another really great one up there that I personally haven't read yet, but about the change in the industry, right? So what's going to happen with products and things like that. Might be some stuff about electric vehicles in there. I know he had done your podcast with you about what's advertising going to look like, right? In 2030.
In the year 2030.
In the year 2030. Meet Dennis Jetson. So with that, I really want to stress that everyone should go on to dealermarketing.com. If they want to stay in touch with Matt and I, you can please follow us on LinkedIn. You can like and follow our respective channels on Facebook, and you could also subscribe on YouTube. Simply just the name of the podcast, Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson and Experimarketing. And then lastly, big thank you also to All In Marketplace is a influencer marketing marketplace where you can go and flex your influence. So allinmarketplace.com, I guess they're calling it the Amazon of influencer marketing. So
All
let's
right,
see what
cool.
it turns out to be, right? That's pretty cool. So allinmarketplace.com, go check it out. Subscribe to be an influencer or a marketer. Stay tuned for updates from All In Marketplace. And that is another episode of Experimarketing. We're out. We'll see you guys next time.